It was one of the proudest moments of my life.
One of our managers was quoted to us in a meeting and said that it was actually a work of genius.
And it makes you almost think that anything could be possible.
I used to work just down the road from here in one of the hotels, and it looked out over the runway at Heathrow, and I'd often find myself looking out of the window and thinking, why am I sitting in here doing this when I should be out there doing that?
I did a trial lesson at Dunkerswell down in Devon. They take you up in a light aircraft, and the first time you get your hands on the controls is just brilliant. It's a feeling like no other.
I went on holiday to America, and when I was 12 years old, and I got a trip in a light aircraft, and at that point I was just hooked, and I just knew I wanted to be a pilot.
You have to be pretty sure it's what you want to do, particularly as I've got children, responsibilities, so I had to be very sure about it.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, the cost is enormous.
Had to find the money, managed to get a loan, best part of £100,000.
And I don't think I really quite understood how much it was. My parents definitely understood, so it was quite daunting, and to not know if you're actually going to come out of the graduation with a job, it's quite a big undertaking.
February 2020, I've been in the company about 18 months. Things are just starting to sort of come together. I had a fair idea of what I was doing now. And then everyone starts talking about coronavirus.
So I remember watching the news, scrolling on my phone endlessly as we all did. When it got to Italy, we realised it was serious. That's a place on the EasyJet network. That's somewhere we fly to every day.
We were dealing with the Swiss to Gatwick market. I think that's when the first kind of reported case in the UK became visible.
The sort of hairs on the back of your neck go up and they go, this is now going to be something that really affects us and that we're going to have to start dealing with.
Obviously we couldn't fly to many destinations, so it was quite eerie at the airport because a lot of our aircraft were parked up. We had engine covers on and things like that.
Car parks that are normally bustling were just large empty sheets of concrete with no cars in them. And seeing Heathrow for that first time like a ghost town, that's one of the images that will remain with me for the rest of my days.
It's incredibly scary to know that your industry, the hundreds of thousands of people in this country actually rely on for their livelihoods, is suddenly under threat. It's just ground to a halt because of this virus.
When your core business or your only business is to fly people from one country to another country and the governments don't allow you to do that, that is a huge threat to your industry. And we needed to make a reduction in our UK workforce because there simply wasn't the flying to be done in that period of time.
At that point, the union got involved.
So we received notification from EasyJet that it intended to put several hundred of our members at risk.
We suspected there were going to be some redundancies, but not on the numbers that were announced to us.
It was a third of the workforce essentially, and at that point it felt quite insurmountable.
To become a pilot, you incur incredible debt. So something they had spent a lot of time training for and investing in and asking mums and dads and relatives and banks to support them was suddenly in jeopardy. The whole lot could be taken away and effectively put on a scrap heap.
And we did have members in that situation who were staring down the barrel of a gun.
So my husband is also a pilot, so he was going through redundancy as well. So yeah, I was scared when I heard about the redundancies.
Bankruptcy. We were looking at bankruptcy for parents and families.
For a lot of people, it was going to mean losing houses as well as their jobs.
I had to pull in at a service station and just had this Teams chat on my mobile phone, sitting on the petrol tank, listening as they were explaining. I think that was the point that redundancies were being talked about.
The emotional impact it had on our members was absolutely massive.
You've worked so hard to get in this position, to then have it ripped away from you is pretty devastating.
Yeah, you get a little glimpse of what it's like to do this job that you've always wanted, and then it's taken away from you.
What we wanted to do is obviously prevent any compulsory redundancies. Now, that is a massive task when we're talking about this sort of numbers.
We went out to the members and said, what do you need us to do? And they said, we need you to do everything you can to save as many jobs as possible. And so that was the problem then that we set out to solve.
I've never been in a union before, and it was at that point that you realise it was a good idea to be a member.
We decided that the most sensible option was to look at trying to get over 2,000 pilots to go part-time to save their colleagues.
When we first heard the idea, Mathematically, it sounded perfectly logical, but from a human perspective, I just didn't think it would be possible.
People agonise over whether they can afford a 50% cut to their income, whether that's going to allow them to put food on the table.
We came up with a slogan of Stay United, Never Forget, and as we moved through this, the entire pilot workforce joined in and bought into this system of saving their colleagues.
You always hope that everyone will stick together and look out for each other, but you don't really expect that to be the reality, so it's very nice to see it when it really happens.
It's lovely to know that we work with so many great people who all wanted to come together, particularly the very senior captains. They would have been safe in the redundancy, but they still took part-time in order to save my job and ultimately my career.
Our unity is what saw us through. Whether you were young, old, new, close to retirement or just into the business, the unity made the difference.
We came together at the darkest of times to pull through together.
I don't cry very often. I'm not a natural crier, but there was a time when we knew we'd done it. Yeah, I went off and had a little moment or two.
If there are any doubters out there, what Balp delivered in EasyJet and the amount of jobs that we saved, that's living proof that unions are very, very valid to anyone, including airline pilots.
And it's probably the proudest moment of my career.
Both my children have seen how the community came together to look after each other here. And my daughter's just starting in aviation and my son's looking at starting training.
It's a testament to the power of collective action over fear and doubt. That's probably how I'd put it, yeah.
When it all goes to hell, will you still be my friend?